Today, I have a very special guest, Vince Ricci, and Vince has been a full-time admissions consultant since 2002. In 2007, he started his own business after deciding he wanted to work with only the best students aiming for the top schools. After serving on the board for 6 years, including 1 year as president, Vince serves on the governance committee of the Association of International Graduate Admission Consultants. He is also a college and graduate school counselor at the Shortlist. Beyond admissions counseling, Vince has been utilizing the improvisational theater skills he developed as the founding education director of Stanford Improvisers to create intercultural learning and development communities at multinational corporations and universities. Currently, he is a course assistant for the Stanford Continuing Studies course, Everyday Spontaneity, Improvising Our Lives. Vince has also been invited to lecture at the University of Tokyo Graduate School of Engineering. Vince received the Lions Award for Service from Stanford University, where he earned his BA in History in 1992. Before moving to Tokyo in 2002, Vince completed his MA in the Digital Media Design for Learning at NYU. While living in New York, he served as founding technologist at Columbia University Center for New Media, Teaching, and Learning. He and his wife are raising a bilingual, bicultural son in California and Japan. So everyone join me in welcoming Vince Ricci. Hello, Vince. Welcome. How are you today?
Doing great, Jennifer. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being on. So Vince and I met, for those of you who are curious, when I taught a live class in Tokyo many years ago with Donald Miller at E4TG. And thanks to social media, we've kept in touch. And recently I saw on one of your posts that you were doing improv, and it really intrigued me. And I think I chatted with you on your post and got really excited about it. So tell me a little bit, let's get started. Let's go back to the beginning. Tell me about you. Tell me about when you were a young Vince and your education.
Thank you. So I would say music and theater really brought me out of my shell. I was pretty terrified all the time as a kid. I studied hard and was good in school, wasn't that great at sports, some anxiety issues. I had friends, but theater, music and theater really brought me out. I don't mean musical theater. I don't sing and dance that well. I mean, I dance, but I wasn't like in Gilbert and Sullivan shows or something. I mean like music, like playing guitar and bass, and then theater. But then when I got to college, well, sorry, I'm going too fast.
That's okay.
Just as a kid, let's just say that I had some anxiety. And then I'll tell you what happened afterwards.
Yeah, actually, that's funny that you say that. I also had anxiety, and just funny side story. I didn't talk for like a year in school. I wouldn't talk to anyone at school. So tell me a little bit about that, and I will tell you as we go along how I got over it too. So
that's amazing, right? Because
how did you get over this? Yeah.
I had a speech pathologist, so I had some pronunciation issues.
Okay.
I had a Maryland R, which I'm sure you know all about. Like I said, I fair, like it's not fair. I used to say it a lot.
Yeah.
I had lived on the East Coast, but yeah, I was born in Oakland, California. So I was like this little East Coast kid, even though I wasn't. And then I stuttered. And I remember going on stage in like Cub Scouts, and I had written a little script, and I was going to do a little monologue with a puppet. And I just totally froze on the stage, like a very typical moment of just stage fright and stuff. So that's my little story. Yeah.
So what did your speech therapist do? I'm actually a speech therapist. That's my training. So what did you learn from your speech therapist that really helped you that maybe other people can kind of implement as well?
She was just really kind and really patient. There was just no judgment at all, either explicit or implicit. She just was just a sweet person. Wish I remember her name. I remember it was second grade, and I would like get up and leave class and go off to meet her. And I was always like looking forward to it because as I recall, it was simply just repetition, like really just training my mouth to pronounce the letter R.
Okay.
as
Okay.
most people pronounce it, as opposed to the way it's pronounced in certain subcultures, in
Hmm.
Maryland, for example,
Yeah.
apparently.
So, bottom line is practice makes perfect, which I kind of say all the time, and some of my students don't like that answer. But by the way, you did a beautiful job because your communication is perfect. So, keep going about your education and your childhood.
So yeah, pre-college, started playing in bands because
Mhm.
really didn't do sports, but I liked groups, so music was a way to. Especially when my guitar teacher looked at me one day and said, "Vince, you have really good rhythm. You don't practice that much.
Mhm.
Why don't you switch to bass?" Because there were like 10 guitarists in my middle school. This was in
Mhm.
the '80s, and everyone wanted to be Eddie Van Halen or
Yeah.
whatever. So he's like, he's like, bass, do bass, and I was like, sure. And then that
Mhm.
was great because I could always be in a band, right? No one was in those days. There wasn't bass wasn't cool yet, so
Mhm.
you were just like that other guy in the back with the drummer.
Mhm.
It was fine. So I could, hang back but still contribute something. So being in bands was really cool. Being on stage, so I could be on a stage, but I
Mhm.
have to talk, and I wasn't the front man. I had to sing, but that kind of helped me get over it, right? Just like, hey, people like this. This is fun. I'm enjoying it. They're enjoying it. And that was a great early transition
Yeah.
to later life.
So bringing sort of building your confidence, learning how to stand in front of people, kind of being putting yourself out there without having to really communicate. Is that correct? Okay. So then this is high school. What about college? What did you do for college?
So I got to college, and my first, it was like orientation, and you could shop around,
Hmm.
and I was naturally gravitating towards the theater department.
Interesting. Okay.
Because that's what I done. I also had done drama in high school, and it was
Yeah.
kind of my core friend group were the drama
Hmm.
geeks, right, or whatever
Hmm.
we call ourselves. And I was in plays and enjoyed that
Hmm.
stuff. So
Yeah.
I was like, gee, let me go check out the theater department here. And it wasn't very competitive. It wasn't like going to USC or something. Stanford theater is kind of like an afterthought, unfortunately.
Oh, really? Okay.
Well,
That surprises me. Okay.
Sigourney Weaver went there, but that she's like the only one I think I can point to,
Okay.
as opposed to numerous Supreme Court justices or whatever,
Okay. Got it. Got it.
or
I see what you're
Tiger Woods. Like, there wasn't like you didn't go to Stanford to do performing arts so much, I
Yeah.
guess, especially
Okay.
now, right? It's all computer science. But even back then, it was like pre-med
Yeah. Got it.
pretty much. So, yeah, so I just gravitated there. I figured I'd find friends and like-minded folks, and I did. And then I saw this professor, and she made a presentation about. She was just beginning to offer improv. She is or was the acting teacher. She taught almost all the acting courses,
Hmm.
and the most popular course in the drama department was her improv, 101, basically 103, I think it was called. And it was hard to get into, but I got
Hmm.
in.
Good for
Um,
you.
and
Okay.
then I was hooked because, and I'm literally in her house at the moment as we make this video. She just changed my life. I mean, people say that, it sounds cliche, but uh, because she herself is a bit introverted, and she herself overcame some stuff, and just I resonated with sort of everything she did and everything she said and everything. She spent tons of time in Japan.
Hmm.
Well, just the whole Asia thing and spirituality. She's a Buddhist, and really, sincere about a lot of things. And she's just a great listener. So I basically majored in her, as I say in one of my YouTube videos. I mean, I just followed her around. It was like, I
Okay,
just
you
want to do.
became like a groupie. I love that. So I'm trying to piece this all together. So I'm loving all of this. So you have this like anxiousness when you're a kid. You do some theater, you gain some confidence, you get into Stanford, you're in theater, you take this improv class. So did you go on to do improv right after college or did you do something else?
I taught. I mean, we were chatting right earlier. I mean, improv for teachers. So I took all her acting courses. I did a
Hmm.
few plays, not a lot. I don't
Hmm.
like auditions because I don't like rejection. So I
Okay.
knew I was never going to make it as a stage actor, or I never even tried to do film. It wasn't my point. I wasn't,
Hmm.
but it was, the concept of applied improvisation. So in the classroom, as a history teacher down in New Orleans, we played games all the time. I never labeled it as such, but I would use some of the techniques, and especially the listening, because as
Hmm.
you know,
Yeah.
listening, improv's about listening. It's actually not about being funny.
Mm-hmm.
so much necessarily. That can be the outcome, but that's
Mm-hmm.
never the intention. The intention is to collaborate with people and trust people, um, and form really quick bonds with people. So all of that stuff was useful. So no, I went and became a teacher. I taught improv at that school,
Okay.
but again, not as like an official course, just as an extra thing. I wasn't in the drama department. I was in the history department.
Okay. So you're also in admissions counseling. So how does that tie in with the improv and doing that in college with then moving into admissions counseling? Because it sounds like two totally different things. Or
Yeah,
is
it
it?
it totally does. But the big concept of improv that I love, the way Patricia teaches it, and her mentor was this guy Keith Johnstone. So there's the Chicago school, and then there's a sort of Keith Johnstone school, and I love both. Um, uh, but my professor is, Keith Johnstone would come and work with us. His whole thing was, one of his things was, status. Of course, a different topic. We probably won't get into that one today, although that's what we're teaching tonight. But what I'm trying to get to is shared control. So as an admissions counselor, especially with adults, my main work for 20 years has been with professional people ages 23 to 35, let's say, average 27, let's say. They're professionals, and they're not coming to me like a 17-year-old would, sort of looking for answers. They're looking for advice, and I absolutely have to respect them. Especially, you and I met in Japan. I started doing this work in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
So the two key concepts for me with them was shared control, meaning that I would approach them as a partner, and my superpower is really listening. Um,
Mm-hmm.
my wife sometimes says I don't listen well enough, and I get it, but
Yeah.
but I really try,
Okay.
especially if it's a professional situation. So I listen very, very deeply to what's being said, and also body language, what's not being said, and what's being held back.
That's good.
And so I don't know if this is answering your question, but to
It
me, they
is.
are related in a very specific kind of way.
Okay, so can you talk a little bit about shared control? Because before this, Vince and I were chatting. I also did improv classes or took improv classes in Chicago, and it sounds like it's different. And I don't know what shared control means. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Well, in the class that I'm teaching right now with Patricia, or she's teaching, and I'm her course assistant, she demonstrates it with a whiteboard. So she puts a whiteboard up in Zoom, and it's a whiteboard. So it's just says like, "Welcome to class. Please doodle." And
Mm-hmm.
people are like, "Ooh, cool. How do I? Ooh, whoa!
Mm-hmm.
I'll make a heart. Ooh, I'll draw a flower. I'll make a rainbow. I'll whatever, draw a river, a
Mm-hmm.
cloud." And then the idea is that it's like everyone's contributing something, and there's no boss. um, and it's also like I tell my clients, when you get to MBA, for example, there isn't, people have kind of status or expectation or an ego for sure, but you're in a study group with 5 people. If you go to Kellogg, right, everything's in a team, or London Business School,
Right. Mm-hmm.
there's no one in charge. The professor doesn't say, okay, so and so, you're leading this project. So
Mm-hmm.
it's shared control again, where it's like, we got to work this out. It's a very
Uh,
natural sort of team environment. But
mm-hmm.
but more specifically to improv, just when you're on a stage, if you and I are doing a scene, and I'm like leading the whole time, it gets really frustrating for you and also boring for the audience. It's much more interesting if we're each adding something to the scene and respecting each other's additions and trying to figure this out. Okay, give me a suggestion for a location and an object, and then
Mm-hmm.
that's shared control because the audience is giving us objects. Then you and I have to come up with a scene using, in a car, with a broomstick. So what are we doing? Why do we have a broomstick in the car? We got to work this out. We
Right.
find out that I'm a witch, or whatever. Like,
Yeah.
we're just working this out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm assuming it's part of the Chicago school, but just maybe not with that name. The idea is
Yeah.
just collaborative creation.
Okay, so I get that. So, in my opinion, my professional opinion, because I work with a lot of people who are not from the US, they're non native speakers, and there are cultural differences. I find a lot of my students are very, I want to call it shy, but that's not really the right word. They are less apt to ask me a question, to interrupt. And I think that that's a skill that people really need for graduate school. So, can you tell me how how do my students learn more? Number one is going to be a big question. How do they learn more about improv and maybe take a class in it? And why should they take a class in improv? Let's start with the why and then we'll go to the how. So, why should a student take improv if they're in another country speaking a different language? What are they going to gain from this?
Confidence,
Mhm.
in a word.
Yeah.
Um, confidence that they can learn how, it's a new skill. They can learn how to raise their hand,
Yeah.
make a suggestion, make a contribution, answer a question, or not panic if they get cold called, which some
Mhm.
schools do.
Yeah.
Um, that's one.
Mhm.
Um,
What about creativity? I'm thinking about creativity from a very business perspective because I think a lot of people hear creativity and they think about, oh, I'm going to write this novel or write this piece of fiction. And I think of creativity very differently in terms of like, I'm going to be able to think of a question or think of a topic to discuss or think of maybe some words that you need to practice. So, how do you how do you apply that creativity? And I think I'm putting words in your mouth because I so believe in improv too, and I think everyone should take a class in it. So, tell me a little bit more about that and how that kind of helps maybe someone getting into a university.
yeah, so it's, I would say, we teach people in our classes to be normal. Don't
Yeah.
try to be clever. Just say the normal, obvious thing.
Mhm.
Lovely weather today, isn't it? Yeah, a little cloudy though. Yeah,
Mhm.
like just you don't have to, you know, you shout out to the audience, "Hey, can I have a suggestion for a room?" You don't want someone to say like, you know, an ER room on Mars. Like the
Yes.
scene's already done,
Right,
right?
exactly, exactly. You're
Like,
so right on that because that's
how
always like
about just the
sabotage.
kitchen?
Yeah.
So keep it simple. Um, there's so much here. I'm trying. My head's spinning with things to say, and I'm trying to be focused. Um, I want to interview you for one sec because you were telling me before the call. You heard about an improv class in Chicago, and you were averse to doing it, and then you took it and you liked it. What did you love about it?
I loved that it pushed me to be uncomfortable and to be confident in my own thoughts, and just to be comfortable in my skin. And I think getting back to what you said is it's not about the most clever answer. It's about that listening piece and being in the moment and being creative in that. Is that it's almost like this laser focus, as opposed to just trying to make it funny. And I find that the people who tried to make it funny were never funny. And the funny people, it was sort of always just it just kind of happened and it kind of flowed, and it was from that sort of shared control as you called it, but ultimately you had to pay attention and you had to listen because if you got off for 1 second then you couldn't keep up with what everyone else had been doing. I think for me it was definitely that confidence and believing in myself and just not being afraid to speak up, which is one of my biggest issues, is sort of not always wanting to be assertive. And you have to learn how to be kindly assertive, I will say. You don't have to like take control, but you do have to sort of insert yourself into things some of the time. So that's kind of what I got out of it. And it was scary. I will say, like, I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Improv was scary at first because you really are doing something that we don't typically do on a daily basis. So, would you agree with that? It's a little bit scary? Yeah. But I think people should still take a class. I really believe in it. This is a hard sell. I think everyone needs to take an improv class It's just great for your confidence. It's great for thinking on your feet. It's great for your listening skills. And for those of you out there who are afraid to sort of put yourself out there when you're speaking, I think this is for you. So let's cut to the chase, Vince. You are leading a class. Tell me about it, what's happening in this class, and how can people sign up and take part in it?
Yeah, so my website is vinceprep.com, and you can find it on my site. Just search for improvisation on my site. Or there's various ways, but my YouTube is also Vince Prep, and I'm talking a lot about it these days. I'm going to make a new video soon about the course. It's 5 weeks, and I'll be flexible about it. It's funny staying with Patricia, her book sold 100,000 copies. It's called Improv Wisdom, and it's in 9 languages. And so, but still, and we talk a lot before the class, which is tonight, class number 7. But then I joined the class as her TA, and she's improvising. She's going with the flow. She's adjusting, but it's fun. So I'll be doing the same thing. But I have on the website what each week sort of has a theme, really basic stuff like narrative and character. And it's useful for actors, but as you were saying, it's also useful for teachers or professionals or students. I've also taught it for families. This
that's fun.
course won't be, if any, I put this out there, but if any families in Salt Lake City, Utah, a professor, his wife, who's an educator, and their daughter, who's homeschooled, joined me during COVID. And it was a way for them to have like playtime. And I was facilitating the games. That was so fun. I've done it with middle school kids in London. Also during the pandemic, a friend reached out and she's like, my kids really want to take improv, but we're in the middle of this thing. So can you put together a course for us? So I've done this in all kinds of, and I've done it for corporations in Tokyo and California too. And this, of course, this course that we're doing tonight, which is for adults. So the one in April is for adults, just because I needed to start somewhere, but I can do it for any group. And I don't want to do it for one person, but 5 or 6, and even numbers are better. So like if you can get 3 friends, I'll do it for any group of 4. I'm trying to make this a bigger and bigger part of my professional focus and my offering. So I'm making it flexible. Pricing as well as flexible. Sort of pay what you can at the moment until I can really get traction with this, because it's just something that I'm really looking at my life, and I love admissions. And I love nothing more exciting than getting the email. I just got one this morning. I got in, and you feel like you're changing someone's life. And I love that feeling, and I'll never stop doing admissions work because it's a skill set, and I love sharing it with people and seeing them achieve their dreams. And also, I want to get back to the stuff that pulled me out of my shell. I think you probably very similar, right? You're doing work that was transformative for you because you didn't talk for a year, and
yes.
I think you know exactly what I'm trying to say here. So I'm open to any offers and any opportunities. There is a class currently Monday night starting in April. It's on my website.
And that's virtual, correct? So anyone can do that. Okay.
It's on Zoom. I can do it live if it works out. I'm in California till August. I'll be back in Japan after that. If a group wants me live, sure. But for now, just using Zoom.
Okay. All right. So let me summarize for everyone out there. So again, we have Vince Ricci. Thank you so much for being here. Vinceprep.com is his website. He's also on YouTube at Vince Prep. Do you have the little @ with Vince Prep now for YouTube? Yeah. Okay. They changed things up there on YouTube.
Yeah, they did.
He's teaching an improv class that is 5 weeks in April for adults, ideally 4 to 6 people, even
There's
numbers.
already 3 signed up, so it's going to happen.
We need one more. Come on, people. Someone sign up. I personally think this is great for everyone. I think if you are looking for just a fun class to take to really push yourself, do this. If you're afraid, you need to sign up even more. It's amazing. It will change your life. I also wanted to shout out about your the book again. What was the name of the book? Improv Wisdom?
Yeah, I wish I had a copy. There's copies all around. Improv
I'll put it in the links. No worries. I'll have it in the links below this video. I'll also put all of Vince's socials and links there. And also, I love the idea of people just reaching out to you to schedule a class for a group. Like, I think if you're a group of friends, and work with a lot of friends, like one person will come to me and then another person will. If you are all trying to get into graduate school in the US and you don't live in the US, I think this is a great way to learn about the culture of the US from Vince. Also, to work on some listening skills with an American native English speaker, and to work on that shared control, working in a group, all of those skills that you're going to need in grad school. And then I think this would also be helpful when you're doing interviewing. Even though you're prepared, I think it's helpful to then, be able to just kind of pivot a little bit, depending on the question that is asked. So, Vince, do you have anything else that you want to add before we sign off?
I think you nailed it because you
Okay.
mentioned the interview piece. I was going to say that's what's kept me doing MBA admissions for 20 years is you can't really get into a top program without the interview. And so that's where I really get to pour it on and use all that training as much
Yeah.
as I can.
And I think this is also, if I can add something on top of that, now that you have these videos that you have to submit, that you get the question and then you have a video, I think this improvisation and feeling a little more comfortable is even more important. I work with some people who are amazing and they just don't come across well in that quick video response sometimes. And I think that this class that Vince is teaching in improv would really help you. So,
Can I share one more quick anecdote?
yeah, please.
I worked with a student of mine yesterday
Mhm.
who we were doing mock interviews for school, and she was using Chat GPT, and I could totally tell
Yeah.
the answers were like so perfect, but also vapid, just empty,
Mhm.
nothing there.
Yep.
But it was cool because she admitted it and we laughed, and then
Mhm.
it was useful. And I actually encourage people to give that a first try and then sort of tear it all apart or find the one keyword in there. So I'm not worried about things like that. Actually, I think if you use it as a tool, I wonder how you feel about that. That's a whole different podcast topic. But it was the first time a client's actually admitted to me that they're using it, and then we could laugh about it, and I could encourage her to like. It wasn't like I scolded her. I was like, "Oh, that's so funny." Well, use it and then go beyond it, or use it and then build something that's more, personal from it.
Again, that's a huge topic, but I do think that everything is a tool, and as long as you use it as a tool to help you come up with your thoughts, I think that it's fine. Sometimes I also find with my students who aren't native English speakers, it's that sort of, I know in my head what I want to say, here's what I want to say, but then kind of like getting it sort of formulated a little bit. So again, I think to pull out a nugget or help with organization, it's a tool. And I think that, if you use it as a tool, but even more, you need this improv class as a tool, right, Vince? So everyone, check out Vince's website, vinceprep.com, for more information on this improv class. And Vince, this has been a delight. I do just want to ask, because I'm trying to, end my podcast with the same question. What is one thing people can do that they can give a try today that people are going to notice a difference in their lives?
Listen as deeply as you can. The greatest gift you can give someone, the greatest way to honor someone, whether it's your grandmother or your friend or your spouse or a stranger in the street or someone at the checkout counter who asks you a question. How's your day going? I mean, just give the gift of deep listening to someone and notice the results.
Hmm. I
That's
love that. I love that. I'm a very emotional person and I love that one. So I love kindness. And I think that listening is ultimately just the biggest kindness that you can express to someone, is just taking that time for someone else. So Vince, thank you for taking the time with me. I really appreciate it. Good luck with your class and with your back and forth from the US to Japan. All the best to you and your family. And I hope that we can touch base again soon.
Hope so too. Thanks a lot for having
Thanks,
me.
Vince. Take care. Bye bye.